for Lynn Clark, who's with me here today. First thing I want to say is that I'm disappointed that I was not able to be here the other day for her first appearance. I was on trial in another case, but I do want to thank my wife, Lauren Olenoff, a partner, Egan Flanagan and Cohen, who stood in, did a tremendous job that day on what was a very difficult day for Ms. Clark. I'm also disappointed that Ms. Clark was arrested and handcuffed and brought out of her home. That did not have to happen, especially because we had an understanding with the government that we would be notified that there was a time to come to court and that we would immediately come to court. So that was disappointing, and it was unnecessary as well. This is a 29-year employee of the city of Chicopee. She started out 29 years ago as a teacher, worked several years as a teacher, and then was a principal for 14 years for 3 different schools in Chicopee. Then she was an assistant superintendent for a number of years, and then for the last 2, the superintendent. And during that entire time, served with dignity and integrity. Someone who was well respected, well liked. Of course, there were disagreements in policy over the years, but she handled those with grace and with no kind of wrongdoing of any kind for that entire time. And that's one of the reasons why we're here today, is to tell you about who she is as a person, and to talk about her stellar career that she has had, and to also ask the public and everyone else to keep an open mind about this. She denies the allegations, okay? At this point, that's all they are. They are merely allegations. Absolutely nothing has been proven whatsoever. We have not seen any evidence of any kind of wrongdoing whatsoever. All that you have so far is a complaint, okay? And the complaint is not evidence. It is merely an allegation, which she denies. There are factual allegations contained in the complaint. And I would say at this point, without getting into details, there are a lot of parts of that are inaccurate from her standpoint. 2 aspects to that. This is someone who met with the FBI on 3 occasions voluntarily. She was uncounseled, and from my understanding of how things go, those meetings were unrecorded. In other words, they rely almost entirely on the memory and the word of the people in the room there. So to say that there's absolute proof, or at this moment any proof, that has been shown in a court of law to be credible is simply not true.
Are you saying the FBI is lying, Jerry?
No, we're not saying anything as to that right now, but we are saying that as to what is in that affidavit, that there are some problems with it. There are some inaccuracies. There are things in there that the FBI alleges she said that she denies that she ever said. I'll give you an example. There's an allegation that she claimed her son sent the text messages, and that is absolutely not true. That is not something she said. The problem with this type of allegation and the way they do these statements is they're, to the best of my knowledge, not recorded. Now, if this were in state court, the state and local police departments are required under Massachusetts law to record these statements to avoid any kind of discrepancies, any kind of inaccuracies, losses of memory, anything like that. There's no such rule in federal court. But that being said, we have not seen any evidence so far. We have not seen any text messages, nor has Ms. Clark. But again, the text messages are not the crime here. The alleged offense is a false statement, and that she denies. So we wanted to come out and let that be known, and we wanted to also let it be known that she, after having this 29 career in the Chicopee school system, again as a teacher, as a principal, as an assistant superintendent, and as a superintendent, should not be judged by this mere allegation at this point. There'll be plenty of time for us to receive evidence. There'll be plenty of time for us to challenge evidence if that's where this goes. So to say that she's been treated fairly so far in the public realm is that has not been the case. In fact, I would specifically reference a lot of the comments made by the Chicopee School Board by those members as to commenting on the alleged conduct at this point, as if it were true, as if it had been proven, as if there were evidence of it that had been proven in a court of law. We take real issue with that. It's inappropriate, and at this point, we would ask people to keep an open mind. People also want to judge will say, oh, the mere fact that she was charged with a crime is wrong. Well, this happens. People are charged with crimes every day. Not everyone who is charged with a crime is guilty. And there's a process that takes place, and during that time, the truth will come out. At this point, again, we have not seen a single shred of evidence. We look forward to that. Ms. Clark herself has not seen a single shred of evidence yet. And so I would proceed with caution in terms of making up your mind before anything has actually come out. But for 29 years, she carried herself with dignity and held the utmost integrity in the Chicopee school system. Again, there are people who disagreed with her on policy because she had to make a lot of difficult decisions. But I would note that as superintendent for the last 2 years, she had to carry the school system through an extremely difficult time, a contentious time, which was during the pandemic, and virtual schooling, remote schooling, and having to deal with the personnel and all of the administrative changes and all the other things that had to be done in order to keep those students learning. So with that, again, I would ask everyone to keep an open mind about this, and just know that we are here. She is represented now. I would note she was not represented at the time she was meeting with the FBI. She was questioned without counsel. It's important to note she did not have a lawyer for any of those interviews. And again, to the best of my knowledge, none of those interviews are recorded. They rely on the word and the memory and the motives of the people in the room who are there for it.
Was Ms. Clark Mirandized?
I don't know, but I would have to guess no, because she was there voluntarily. And so it was not a custodial situation. She was there voluntarily and met with them on 3 different occasions as recently as a few months ago. And so to think, when they made the decision to arrest her, I don't know where they thought that she might run to, because she had been cooperating with the FBI regularly, and they already knew when they arrested her that they were going to agree to release her in front of the judge the other day as soon as they got to court. There was no purpose in doing that other than to humiliate her, to cause the greatest amount of disturbance in her life, and make more of a public spectacle of it. So that's why we're here. Normally, I would just add that normally the rules of ethics prevent such pretrial publicity from attorneys. However, there's an exception, and that is when there is such pretrial publicity that is so overwhelming that it could cause an enormous damage to the reputation of the person charged. And we are now in that position right now, and that's why we are here.
Would you say that the 99 texts that were sent, are you alleging that your client did not send those messages?
We're not alleging anything at this point. We haven't seen any text messages. We don't even know what they say. We don't know what the contents are. If you read the affidavit carefully, they're not really referenced verbatim at any point in there. So we don't know what they say.
Have they seized your phone?
They have. They've seized all electronics.
So, and I'm not minimizing your accomplishments, Ms. Clark, but what about the relationship with the captain? What about that?
Yeah, we have no comment on any relationship, as it's not germane to the offense, the alleged offense. I mean, the alleged offense is making a false statement to the FBI. There's nothing in there about whether there's a relationship or not.
And there's been calls for a client, Ms. Clark, to resign as superintendent. Did she plan to do that, or what's her response to that?
So, right, we are, in this point, we are, I would say in communications with the city as to what the next steps will be. We don't know what's going to happen with that. As of right now, she is suspended with pay. That could change if there's an indictment. We expect there could be an indictment. So it's all going to be, a lot of it's statutory in nature. In other words, what happens next is, determined by law. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see what kind of decisions that she has to make going forward.
Any message to staff, students about this?
No message to them, other than to say that she served for 29 years, again, all the way from pretty much every aspect that you can in the educational system. As a teacher, many years as a principal at 3 different schools, and was, by all accounts, beloved as in her roles. They're very difficult roles, but nonetheless, it's a job that she loved, and she loved working with the people. She loved working with the students, and so that's sort of the the shame in all of this is that is that she did love this so much, and her work was her life, so she gave everything to her job, and at the expense of probably other things in her life. So.
What was the thought process in the situation that led to the FBI?
Whose thought process? And what led to? Well, I mean, the FBI called to say, "Hey, can you come in and talk to us?" And she went and talked to them. Yeah.
And you said that your client, Ms. Clark, she ended up getting arrested on Wednesday morning. Were you representing her before she got arrested? And what makes you say she shouldn't have got arrested that day?
So yes, I've been representing her since she last spoke to the FBI. So after her last interview, I believe a day or two later, I came into contact with her, and I've been representing her since. So I didn't represent her during any of the time period when she was speaking to the FBI. And when I say that she should not have been arrested, that's a call that the government gets to make. And I did have discussions with them about avoiding that, because I'll tell you what, being here for several years now, I would say in much more serious cases, we're able to walk into court whenever we're notified that there's a pending case, and to make our appearance that way. And that's been perfectly fine for many people charged with far more serious crimes.
And the FBI just come and bang on your door, bang on your client's door?
Yeah, right.
How did that go?
Yeah, they rolled up to her home and banged on the door nice and early in the morning, and and handcuffed her, brought her out, and brought her to court. And then as soon as she got into court, after her her bail interview and her appearance before the judge, she was released. So it was all done in a matter of hours. And
just last thing, I think, where did that strand that your client cast suspicion on a family member of hers? Where did that come from?
so it's my understanding that it's my understanding that that was something that was, at least according to the affidavit that I read, that was raised during that. But at no point did she blame her son for this, or even or say that he could have done this. So with that, I would just thank you all again. I appreciate you coming out on a Friday afternoon. All right, thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right.